What if everything we knew about Harry Potter changed because of one single moment? What if Severus Snape and Lily Evans had ended up together? This isn't just a romantic what-if scenario. This is a question that could reshape the entire wizarding world as we know it. The boy who lived might never have existed. Voldemort's downfall could have happened in an entirely different way, or perhaps not at all. And one of literature's most tragic love stories could have had a completely different ending. To understand how monumental this change would be, we need to go back to where it all began. Severus Snape and Lily Evans first met as children, long before Hogwarts. Snape, living in the shabby streets of Spinner's End, discovered young Lily's magic and told her she was a witch. For Snape, Lily was everything. She was his first friend, his only friend really, and the one bright spot in an otherwise miserable childhood filled with poverty and domestic violence. Lily saw past Snape's worn clothes and odd appearance. She saw someone who understood her, someone who could explain the strange things that happened around her. When they arrived at Hogwarts, things began to shift. They were sorted into different houses. Lily went to Gryffindor, the house of the brave and bold. Snape went to Slytherin, the house that had produced more dark wizards than any other. But their friendship persisted through their first few years, even as Snape fell in with a bad crowd. He befriended students who would become Death Eaters, students like Avery and Mulciber. He became increasingly fascinated with the dark arts, and Lily noticed. She confronted him about his friends and their twisted views on Muggleborns like herself. Then came the moment that shattered everything. Their 5th year, after Snape's worst memory, the incident by the lake. James Potter and Sirius Black had humiliated Snape in front of a crowd of students, using the spell Levicorpus to flip him upside down and expose him. Lily had intervened, defending Snape even though she didn't particularly like James at the time. And in his humiliation, his anger, his wounded pride, Snape lashed out at the one person trying to help him. He called her a mudblood. That single word destroyed their friendship. Lily walked away, and despite Snape's desperate apologies, she never truly forgave him. She eventually fell for James Potter, who had matured and stopped his bullying ways. They married, had Harry, and sacrificed everything to protect him from Voldemort. Snape spent the rest of his life consumed by guilt, working as a double agent, protecting Harry from the shadows, all because of his undying love for the woman he'd lost. But what if that moment had gone differently? What if Snape had never said that word? Or what if Lily had given him a real second chance? Let's explore this alternate timeline and see how dramatically the wizarding world would change. For Snape and Lily to end up together, we need to identify the exact point where their relationship could have been salvaged. The most logical divergence point is the incident by the lake. In our alternate timeline, let's say that when James Potter attacks Snape, humiliating him in front of everyone, Snape restrains himself. Even in his rage and embarrassment, he bites back the slur. Lily still defends him. She still tells James off. But this time, when she tries to help Snape, he doesn't push her away with the worst possible word he could have chosen. Perhaps he says nothing at all, too shocked and hurt to speak. Or perhaps he thanks her quietly, his pride wounded, but not so much that he destroys the most important relationship in his life. Lily walks him away from the jeering crowd. They really talk about what happened. And this is where Lily gives Snape an ultimatum. She tells him she can't keep defending him if he continues down the path he's on. His friends, Avery and Mulciber, their fascination with the dark arts, their views on blood purity. She tells him he has to choose her friendship, their bond, or the toxic path toward darkness. In canon, Snape didn't have this moment of clarity until it was too late. But in this timeline, with Lily's friendship still intact, still within reach, he makes a different choice. It's not easy. It's actually one of the hardest things he's ever done. These Slytherin students were the only other people who had accepted him, even if their acceptance came with dark strings attached. But Lily is different. Lily is real. Lily sees him as more than just a future Death Eater or a half-blood prince. She sees Severus, the boy who told her about magic, who walked with her to Hogwarts, who shared her love of potions and learning. So Snape distances himself from Avery, Mulciber, and the others. It makes his life in Slytherin House incredibly difficult. He's isolated, viewed as a blood traitor by many of his housemates. The Marauders still don't like him. James Potter especially watches him with suspicion and jealousy because Snape and Lily are still close. But Snape endures it because he has something worth fighting for. He has Lily. As their 6th and 7th years progress, their relationship evolves. What started as childhood friendship deepens into something more. Lily sees how hard Snape is trying to change, to be better. She sees him standing up to his former friends when they make derogatory comments about Muggleborns. She sees him excelling in potions and defense against the dark arts, not to impress dark wizards, but to prove he's talented in his own right. And gradually her feelings shift from friendship to something romantic. The transition from friendship to romance is gradual and natural for them. It starts with small things. Snape walking Lily to her classes even when it means he'll be late to his own. Lily saving him a seat in the library, their study sessions lasting longer and longer. Their hands brushing when they reach for the same book and neither pulling away. The way they look at each other across the Great Hall during meals. A silent communication that others notice, but they haven't quite acknowledged yet. It's in their 7th year, during a late-night study session in an empty classroom, that things finally shift. They're working on an essay about defensive potions, sitting close together as they share notes. Lily makes a joke about one of Slughorn's more dramatic demonstrations, and Snape actually laughs, a real laugh, not his usual sardonic snort. And Lily realizes, looking at him in the candlelight, that somewhere along the way she's fallen in love with him. Snape notices her staring and asks what's wrong. And Lily, being Lily, direct and brave and honest, tells him that she thinks she might be in love with him, and she needs to know if he feels the same way because she can't keep pretending there's nothing between them. Snape is stunned into silence for a long moment. He's loved Lily since they were children, but he never dared hope she might feel the same way. When he finally finds his voice, it's shaky and uncertain in a way Lily has never heard from him before. He tells her he's loved her for years, that she's the reason he chose to change, that he would do anything for her. Their first kiss is tentative and sweet and perfect. Neither of them has much experience with romance, so it's a bit awkward, noses bumping, unsure where hands should go. But it's theirs and it's real, and when they pull apart, both of them are smiling. Lily rests her forehead against his and whispers that she loves him. Snape, who has never heard those words from anyone, not from his parents, not from friends, feels something in his chest that might be his heart breaking and healing at the same time. Word spreads quickly through Hogwarts that Lily Evans and Severus Snape are together. The reactions are mixed. The Gryffindors are confused and some are disapproving. Many of them still see Snape as that greasy Slytherin git who hangs around with dark arts enthusiasts. James Potter is visibly devastated, though he tries to hide it. He'd been slowly working on himself, maturing, hoping that one day Lily might give him a chance. Seeing her with Snape feels like a betrayal, even though logically he knows Lily doesn't owe him anything. Sirius Black is furious. He confronts Lily one day, demanding to know what she's thinking, dating someone like Snape. He brings up Snape's friends, his interest in dark magic, warning her that she's making a mistake. Lily stands her ground, telling Sirius that people can change, that Snape has changed, and that Sirius's hatred is based more on house rivalry than any real concern for her well-being. It's a harsh conversation that leaves their friendship strained for months. Remus Lupin is more measured in his response. He's worried about Lily, certainly, but he's also seen glimpses of the person Snape could be when he's not being provoked by James and Sirius. He tells Lily privately that he hopes she knows what she's doing, but that he'll support her choices. It's the response Lily appreciates most, understanding without judgment. Peter Pettigrew, as always, follows the lead of James and Sirius, parroting their concerns without adding much substance. His opinion matters little to anyone involved. In Slytherin House, Snape faces his own challenges. His former friends view his relationship with a Muggleborn as the ultimate betrayal. Avery confronts him in the common room one night, calling him a blood traitor, saying that he's throwing away his future for a girl who isn't worth it. Snape hexes him without hesitation, making it clear that anyone who insults Lily will answer to him. It establishes a new dynamic in Slytherin House. Some students respect Snape's power and keep their mouths shut. Others whisper behind his back, spreading rumors, trying to undermine him. But there are also those in Slytherin who quietly admire what Snape is doing. Students who are uncomfortable with the blood purity rhetoric but afraid to speak up, who see in Snape's choice a different path for themselves. A younger Slytherin student, maybe Regulus Black, Sirius's brother, starts seeking out Snape's advice, asking questions about choosing your own beliefs over family expectations. These conversations plant seeds that might bloom into resistance against Voldemort later. Lily and Snape navigate their 7th year as a couple, learning each other in new ways. They discover that dating is different from friendship, requires different kinds of communication and compromise. They have their first real fight about something trivial, maybe about whose friends they should spend time with, and both of them are terrified that they've ruined everything. But they talk through it, learn that disagreements don't mean the end, that love means working through problems together. They study together for their NEWTs, pushing each other to excel. Snape helps Lily with potions, his expertise making complex concepts clear. Lily helps Snape with transfiguration and charms, subjects where her natural talent outshines his more methodical approach. They both achieve outstanding NEWT results among the top students in their year. As graduation approaches, they have to make decisions about their future. The wizarding world outside Hogwarts is increasingly dangerous. Voldemort's influence is growing, attacks on Muggleborns are becoming more common. Lily wants to fight, to join the resistance that's forming against the Death Eaters. Snape is terrified of losing her, but knows he can't hold her back. They decide together to join the Order of the Phoenix, to fight for the world they want to build together. The day they graduate from Hogwarts is bittersweet. They're excited for their future, but sad to leave the castle that brought them together. They stand on the grounds, looking back at the towers and turrets, and Snape tells Lily that this is where his life really began, the day he met her on the Hogwarts Express. Lily kisses him and promises that their best days are still ahead of them. After Hogwarts, in the late 1970s, they move into a small flat in Muggle London. It's cramped and the plumbing is questionable, but it's theirs. Lily decorates it with bright colors and plants, trying to make it feel like home. Snape sets up a small potions lab in what was supposed to be a closet, the space barely big enough for a cauldron and his ingredients, but he makes it work. They learn to live together, to navigate the mundane challenges of shared space and different habits. Snape is meticulous and organized, Lily more chaotic and spontaneous. They drive each other crazy sometimes, but wouldn't have it any other way. Lily gets a job at the Ministry in the Department of Magical Law Enforcement. It's entry-level work, filing reports and assisting senior officials, but she throws herself into it with characteristic passion. She sees the inequalities in the system, the ways Muggleborns are discriminated against, and she starts building a reputation as someone who speaks up for what's right, even when it's uncomfortable. Her supervisors don't always appreciate it, but they can't deny her competence. Snape struggles more with employment. His expertise in potions is undeniable, but his youth and his lack of connections make it hard to find work. He takes odd jobs brewing potions for apothecaries, doing freelance work, anything to contribute to their household expenses. It chafes at his pride, not being able to provide the way he thinks he should. Lily reassures him constantly that they're partners, that they're building their life together, that his worth isn't measured by his paycheck. Their introduction to the Order of the Phoenix comes through Lily's connections at the Ministry. Someone notices her advocacy for Muggleborn rights, her courage in speaking against blood supremacy policies, and approaches her about joining a group that's actively fighting against Voldemort. Lily immediately says yes and insists that Snape be included. There's hesitation from some Order members who know Snape's background, his Slytherin connections, his near association with dark magic. But Dumbledore vouches for him, seeing in Snape someone who chose differently, whose choice should be respected and encouraged. The first Order meeting they attend is uncomfortable. It's held at the house of Edgar Bones, a Ministry official with a large family. The room is full of people Lily and Snape recognize from Hogwarts and from the wizarding community. James Potter is there, his face carefully neutral when he sees them. Sirius Black glares at Snape throughout the meeting. Remus Lupin offers them a small, genuine smile. There are also people they don't know, older witches and wizards who've been fighting this war longer than Lily and Snape have been adults. Dumbledore leads the meeting, discussing intelligence about Death Eater activities, planning responses to recent attacks. He emphasizes that they're fighting for a world where blood status doesn't matter, where everyone has the right to live without fear. When he asks if anyone has anything to add, Lily speaks up. She talks about the systemic discrimination she's seeing at the Ministry, how it creates an environment where Voldemort's ideology can flourish. Her passion is evident, and several Order members nod in agreement. It establishes her as someone worth listening to. After the meeting, James approaches them. The conversation is awkward and painful. He tells Lily that he'll always care about her, that he wants her to be happy, but seeing her with Snape is difficult. He tells Snape, with barely controlled hostility, that if he ever hurts Lily, there won't be anywhere he can hide. Snape responds quietly that he has no intention of hurting Lily, that she's the most important person in his life. It's not forgiveness or friendship, but it's a fragile truce, an agreement to work together for the greater good. The Order becomes central to their lives. They attend meetings, participate in missions, risk their lives repeatedly for the cause. One of their early missions is to rescue a Muggle-born family that's been targeted by Death Eaters. The family's home is under attack when the Order arrives. Death Eaters in masks are torturing the parents, searching for information about other Muggle-borns. Lily and Snape work together, their teamwork honed by years of friendship and romance. Lily's stunning spells drop 2 Death Eaters while Snape's shield charms protect the family. They successfully evacuate the family and drive off the attackers, though not without injuries. Snape takes a cutting curse to his shoulder that leaves a scar. Lily is hit with a minor hex that causes temporary blindness. They spend the night at St. Mungo's, holding hands in adjacent hospital beds, knowing that this is only the beginning of the dangers they'll face. As the war intensifies, they have to make harder choices. There's a mission to intercept a Death Eater meeting, to gather intelligence about Voldemort's plans. It requires someone to go undercover, to pretend to be a potential recruit. Snape volunteers immediately. His background makes him the perfect candidate. He was almost a Death Eater, knows the rhetoric, the people, the ideology. He can be convincing. But Lily is terrified. She knows that going undercover means Snape will be exposed to dark magic, to the very people and ideas he turned away from. She worries it will change him, corrupt him, pull him back to the darkness he escaped. They fight about it. Lily argues that it's too dangerous, that they'll find another way. Snape insists that he's the only one who can do this, that his past makes him valuable to the Order, that he needs to use his knowledge for good. The argument escalates, voices raised, both of them scared and expressing it as anger. Finally, Dumbledore intervenes. He tells them that the decision is Snape's to make, but that he understands Lily's concerns. He promises that if Snape does this, he'll have support, that he won't be alone in the darkness. Snape goes undercover. He attends a Death Eater recruitment meeting, wearing clothes that remind him uncomfortably of his Slytherin days, his hair falling in his face, his expression carefully neutral. He sees people he knew from Hogwarts, Avery and Mulciber among them, now wearing the dark mark proudly. They greet him with cruel smiles, asking where he's been, if he's finally ready to stop wasting time with mudbloods and join the winning side. Snape swallows his rage and plays the part. He says he's had doubts, that he's been questioning his choices, that he wants to learn more. The Death Eaters test him, ask him to prove his commitment. They want him to participate in an attack on a Muggle family. Snape agrees, his stomach churning with disgust, knowing he needs to maintain his cover. But before the attack happens, he manages to get word to the Order. When the Death Eaters arrive at the targeted home, the Order is waiting. The ambush saves the family but blows Snape's cover. The Death Eaters realize he betrayed them, that he was feeding information to the Order. Snape barely escapes, apparating away with curses flying past him, one of them catching him across the back and leaving a burn scar he'll carry for the rest of his life. When he returns to their flat, bleeding and traumatized, Lily is there. She doesn't say, "I told you so." She just holds him while he shakes, helps him out of his torn robes, tends to his injuries with gentle hands and healing spells. She tells him she's proud of him, that he saved that family, that what he did was brave. Snape breaks down, tells her about having to pretend, about seeing his old friends who became monsters, about how close he came to being one of them. Lily reminds him that he didn't become that he chose differently, that his choices define him more than his past ever could. The failed undercover operation has consequences. The Death Eaters now know Snape is actively working against them. He and Lily are targeted specifically. There's an attempt on their lives when they're walking home from the market one evening. 3 Death Eaters ambush them in an alley, wands drawn, clearly intending murder. The duel that follows is vicious and desperate. Lily and Snape fight back to back, their magic in perfect sync. Snape's knowledge of dark magic helps him anticipate the Death Eaters' tactics. Lily's raw power and creativity keep them on the defensive. They manage to wound 2 of the attackers and force the third to retreat, but it's a close call. They move flats after that, to a location protected by Fidelius' charm, their safety dependent on secrecy. Living under constant threat of death changes people. Lily becomes more serious, less quick to laugh, though she fights against the darkness trying to take hold in her heart. She throws herself into her work at the ministry with even more intensity, pushing for reforms, for protections for Muggleborns, for anything that might make a difference. Snape becomes more protective of her, sometimes overbearingly so. He worries every time she leaves for work, every time she goes on a mission. He brews protective potions obsessively, creates new defensive spells, anything to keep her safe. They have a conversation one night about whether they should leave, flee to another country where Voldemort's influence hasn't reached. They could start over, be safe, live normal lives. But even as they discuss it, they both know they won't do it. They can't abandon the fight, can't leave others to face the danger alone. They're in this until the end, whatever that end might be. The prophecy that changes everything is made during an interview at the Hog's Head in Hogsmeade. Sybil Trelawney, applying for the position of divination teacher at Hogwarts, goes into a trance and speaks words that will shape the war's outcome. The one with the power to vanquish the Dark Lord approaches. Born to those who have thrice defied him, born as the 7th month dies. Dumbledore hears the prophecy firsthand, but so does someone else, a Death Eater who was listening at the door. The information makes its way to Voldemort, who becomes obsessed with identifying the child referenced in the prophecy. In canon, the prophecy pointed to either Harry Potter or Neville Longbottom, both born at the end of July, both to parents who had defied Voldemort 3 times. In this timeline, Lily and Snape are together but haven't had children yet. They've talked about it, about having a family someday when the world is safer, but the war has made that dream feel distant and impossible. So the prophecy doesn't point to them. Instead, it points to Frank and Alice Longbottom, powerful Aurors who have directly opposed Voldemort multiple times. Their son Neville, born in late July, becomes the target. When Dumbledore informs the Order about the prophecy, the mood becomes even more grim. The Longbottoms are put under heavy protection, their location hidden, their movements restricted. But Voldemort is determined and patient. He spends months gathering intelligence, using his Death Eaters to probe for weaknesses in the Longbottoms' defenses. The Order does everything they can to protect them, but they're fighting a war on multiple fronts, stretched thin by constant attacks and recruitment efforts. The night Voldemort finally locates the Longbottoms is chaos. The Order receives warning that an attack is imminent, but by the time they arrive, Voldemort is already there. The house is destroyed, protective wards shattered. Inside, Frank and Alice have fought bravely, wounded several Death Eaters, but they're no match for Voldemort himself. The Dark Lord stands over baby Neville's crib, wand raised, ready to fulfill what he believes is his destiny, to eliminate the threat the prophecy represents. The Order members burst in. Dumbledore leads the charge, immediately engaging Voldemort in a duel of such power that it tears apart what remains of the house. Lily and Snape rush to the Longbottoms. Alice is still alive, barely, shielding her son with her body. Frank is unconscious nearby. Lily tries to pull Alice away to get them all out, but Alice refuses to leave Neville. She's a mother protecting her child, and nothing will make her abandon him. What happens next is witnessed by everyone there, and will be debated for years afterward. Voldemort, momentarily distracted by Dumbledore, turns back to the crib. Alice, using the last of her strength, places herself between Voldemort and Neville one final time. She tells Voldemort that he'll have to kill her first, that she'll never let him hurt her son. Voldemort, who has never understood love, who views it as weakness, is annoyed by this display. He casts the killing curse at Alice without hesitation, but something happens that Voldemort doesn't expect. Alice's love, a mother's willingness to die for her child, creates a powerful magical protection. When Voldemort then turns his wand on Neville and casts the killing curse again, the spell rebounds. The green light hits Voldemort and destroys his body. He's not dead. His Horcruxes prevent that. But he's reduced to something less than ghost, a wraith that flees into the night. Baby Neville survives, marked with a lightning bolt scar on his forehead, protected by his mother's sacrifice. Alice lives long enough to see her son safe before she succumbs to her injuries, dying in Frank's arms as he regains consciousness. The aftermath of that night is bittersweet. Voldemort is gone, his body destroyed, his Death Eaters scattering in fear and confusion. The war appears to be over, but the cost has been terrible. Alice Longbottom is dead, a hero who sacrificed everything for her son. Frank Longbottom is devastated, left to raise Neville alone while grieving his wife. Neville, too young to understand, has become the boy who lived, famous throughout the wizarding world for surviving the killing curse. The Order grieves Alice while celebrating the victory. The funeral is attended by hundreds of people. Lily speaks at the service, her voice breaking as she talks about Alice's courage, her love, her sacrifice. She holds Snape's hand throughout, both of them thinking about how easily it could have been them, how close they've come to death so many times. They think about the children they haven't had yet, about whether bringing life into this world is responsible or reckless. In the months following Voldemort's fall, the wizarding world begins to heal. Death Eaters are rounded up and tried. Some, like Bellatrix Lestrange and Barty Crouch Jr., are sent to Azkaban for their crimes. Others, like Lucius Malfoy, manage to claim they were under Imperious curse, buying their freedom with wealth and influence. It's imperfect justice, but it's something. The Ministry undergoes reforms, purging dark magic sympathizers from positions of power. Lily is promoted for her advocacy work, given more responsibility, more opportunity to shape policy. Snape receives multiple job offers. His role in the war, his contributions to the Order have made him somewhat famous despite his attempts to avoid the spotlight. Slughorn, his old potions professor, recommends him for advanced potion research positions. Private companies want to hire him for his expertise. But the offer he accepts is from Dumbledore. The headmaster invites Snape to teach potions at Hogwarts, to shape young minds, to help rebuild the wizarding world by educating the next generation. Snape is hesitant at first, unsure if he's suited for teaching, but Dumbledore's faith in him is persuasive. He accepts the position. Teaching is harder than Snape expected. He's knowledgeable and passionate about potions, but translating that into effective teaching is challenging. His first year at Hogwarts is rough. He's too harsh with students who don't meet his standards, too impatient with those who struggle. He has to learn to balance his expectations with the reality that not everyone has his natural talent or obsessive dedication. Lily helps, visiting Hogwarts regularly, observing his classes and offering gentle feedback. She reminds him to see the students as individuals, to remember what it was like being young and uncertain. Gradually, Snape improves as a teacher. He develops a reputation as demanding but fair, someone who pushes students to excel but also recognizes genuine effort. He's particularly good with Slytherin students, understanding their house's complicated legacy post-war, helping them navigate the stigma of being in the house that produced so many Death Eaters. He tells them that their house doesn't define them, that they can choose to be better, that he's proof that Slytherin values like ambition and cunning can be used for good. Lily continues her work at the Ministry, rising through the ranks. She becomes one of the leading voices for Muggle-born rights, pushing through legislation that protects against discrimination, that ensures equal opportunities regardless of blood status. She works on integration programs, helping Muggle-born students transition to the magical world more smoothly, providing resources and support. Her work makes real measurable differences in people's lives. She receives awards and recognition, but what matters most to her is the letters she gets from Muggle-borns thanking her, telling her that her advocacy changed their lives. 3 years after Voldemort's fall, Lily and Snape finally feel stable enough to talk seriously about having children. The world isn't perfect. Prejudice and dark magic still exist, but it's better than it was. They're both established in their careers, financially stable, emotionally ready. The decision to start a family is both exciting and terrifying. They've seen so much death, so much loss. Bringing a child into the world feels like an act of faith in the future. Lily becomes pregnant shortly after they start trying. The pregnancy is both wonderful and anxiety-inducing. Snape is overprotective to an almost comical degree. He researches prenatal care obsessively, brews every potion that might help with pregnancy symptoms, hovers constantly to make sure Lily isn't overexerting herself. Lily finds it endearing and annoying in equal measure. She's perfectly capable of taking care of herself, but she also appreciates how much he cares. The pregnancy progresses normally. Lily experiences typical symptoms: morning sickness that lasts all day for the first trimester, cravings for bizarre food combinations, emotional swings that have her crying at the smallest things. Snape handles it all with patience and love, even when she's being completely irrational and they both know it. He takes on more of the household responsibilities, cooks meals, helps her put on shoes when bending becomes difficult. They spend evenings discussing names, debating endlessly about what to call their child. They want something meaningful but not overly complicated, something that honors their past, without being burdened by it. They consider family names, historical figures they admire, characters from literature. The debates are passionate and sometimes silly, both of them enjoying the process of planning for their child's future. Lily's water breaks 3 weeks before her due date. They're at Hogwarts, Lily having come to visit Snape for the weekend when contractions start. Panic ensues. Snape, usually calm and collected, loses his composure completely. He can brew complex potions under pressure, can duel Death Eaters without flinching, but the prospect of Lily giving birth terrifies him. Dumbledore arranges immediate transport to St. Mungo's, accompanying them personally and providing calming words that neither Lily nor Snape really hear over their mutual anxiety. The labor is long and difficult. Lily is in pain despite pain-reducing potions, exhausted and scared. Snape stays by her side the entire time, holding her hand, whispering encouragements, feeling helpless and useless. He wishes he could take her pain, bear it himself, do anything other than just watch her suffer. When complications arise and the healers become concerned, when there's talk of emergency procedures, Snape experiences more fear than he's ever felt, even during the war. The prospect of losing Lily, of facing a world without her, is unbearable. But Lily is strong. She's survived a war, survived countless dangers, and she survives this too. After 18 hours of labor, their daughter is born. She's tiny and red-faced and perfect, screaming at the indignity of being born, her small fists waving in the air. The healers place her in Lily's arms, and both parents are immediately, completely in love. Snape looks at this tiny person they created and feels emotions he can't name. Overwhelming and intense and beautiful. They name her Eileen Rose. Eileen after Snape's mother, who died when he was young. Rose for the flower and for its simplicity. Little Eileen has a shock of red hair like her mother and dark eyes like her father. She's healthy and strong, her magic already evident in the way objects near her crib occasionally float. Snape holds his daughter for the first time with shaking hands, terrified he'll do something wrong, that he'll drop her or hurt her somehow. But Eileen settles against his chest, her tiny hand wrapping around his finger, and Snape is undone. He never thought he'd have this, never thought he deserved it, but here she is, this perfect little person who's half him and half Lily. Those first few months of parenthood are exhausting and wonderful. Eileen is a colicky baby, crying for hours, seemingly never sleeping. Lily and Snape take turns walking her around their quarters at Hogwarts, both of them operating on minimal sleep, both of them sometimes frustrated and overwhelmed, but also deeply, profoundly grateful. They're building the family they dreamed of, creating something good and pure from their love. Snape discovers that fatherhood changes his teaching. He's more patient with students, more understanding when they make mistakes. He sees them not just as students, but as someone's children, as people who are loved and valued. His classes remain challenging, but the harsh edge is gone. Students notice the difference. They see Professor Snape arriving to class sometimes with spit up on his robes, occasionally distracted by thoughts of his daughter. It humanizes him in ways that make him more accessible. Lily returns to work at the ministry after a few months, having fought for maternity leave policies that didn't exist before. She arranges her schedule to maximize time with Eileen while still pursuing her career. It's a difficult balance. She feels guilty when she's at work missing Eileen's moments, and guilty when she's home thinking about ministry projects left undone. Snape reassures her constantly that she's a wonderful mother, that Eileen is thriving, that it's okay to have ambitions beyond parenthood. They develop a system that works for them. During the Hogwarts term, Eileen stays with Lily at their cottage in Godric's Hollow, which they purchased with their combined savings. On weekends, Lily brings Eileen to Hogwarts and the castle fills with the sound of a baby's laughter. Students compete for chances to hold Eileen or play with her. Even Dumbledore makes time to visit the potions master's quarters, entertaining Eileen with gentle magic that makes her giggle. During school holidays, they're all together, establishing family routines and traditions. As Eileen grows from baby to toddler, her personality emerges. She's curious and determined, getting into everything, examining the world with intense focus. She shows early signs of her father's intelligence and her mother's courage, a combination that leads to frequent mischief. She's particularly fascinated by potions, watching intently when Snape works, trying to reach for ingredients with grasping hands. Snape sets up safe experiments for her, simple color-changing potions that won't harm her if she spills them, nurturing her interest while keeping her safe. When Eileen is 2 years old, Lily becomes pregnant again. This pregnancy is easier than the first, perhaps because they know what to expect, or perhaps because Lily's body handles it better. Their son is born after a much shorter labor, arriving with less drama than his sister. They name him Alexander Severus, Alexander meaning defender, Severus after his father. Alexander is a calmer baby than Eileen was, sleeping better, crying less. Where Eileen is intense and focused, Alexander is more easygoing and social. Having 2 small children is exponentially more challenging than one. Lily and Snape are outnumbered now, constantly juggling 2 sets of needs. Eileen, no longer the only child, struggles with jealousy. She acts out, demanding attention, sometimes being rough with baby Alexander. Lily and Snape navigate these challenges with patience and love, reassuring Eileen that she's still loved, still important, while teaching her to be gentle with her brother. The Snape family becomes a fixture in both the Hogwarts and Ministry communities. People see them as a symbol of post-war recovery, proof that happiness and family are possible after trauma. But Lily and Snape don't think of themselves that way. They're just 2 people trying their best to raise their children, to do meaningful work, to build a good life. They have bad days when everything goes wrong, when the kids are sick and work is stressful and they snap at each other out of exhaustion. They have good days when everything clicks, when they catch each other's eyes across a room and remember why they fell in love. As the children grow, Snape tells them stories about Hogwarts, about magic, about the adventures they'll have when they're old enough. Lily tells them stories about Muggle things, about her childhood, about the non-magical world that's equally wonderful. They raise their children to appreciate both worlds, to see magic as a gift but not what defines a person's worth. They talk about the war in age-appropriate ways, about how people fought for what was right, about courage and sacrifice and love. Eileen's first signs of magic manifest strongly when she's 5. She throws a tantrum about not getting a second dessert, and the windows in the room shatter. Lily and Snape calmly fix the windows and talk to Eileen about controlling her emotions, about how magic responds to feelings, about the importance of discipline. They remember their own childhoods, the confusion and fear of uncontrolled magic, and they make sure their children understand what's happening to them. Alexander's magic appears more subtly, objects moving when he wants them, lights dimming or brightening based on his mood. He's more cautious than his sister, more worried about doing something wrong. Snape recognizes this tendency, sees himself in his son, and works to build Alexander's confidence. He tells him that mistakes are part of learning, that even the greatest witches and wizards were once children figuring things out. The years pass quickly. Before Lily and Snape fully realize it, Eileen is 11 and receiving her Hogwarts letter. The day it arrives is emotional for everyone. Eileen is excited, having heard stories about Hogwarts her entire life, ready to start her own adventure. Alexander is jealous, upset that his sister gets to go to the magical castle while he has to wait another 2 years. Lily is proud and sad simultaneously, her baby growing up, starting to build her own life. Snape is nervous, worried about his daughter navigating the same halls where he was once bullied, though he knows Hogwarts has changed significantly since his time. Shopping for school supplies in Diagon Alley is a family affair. They visit Flourish and Blots for books, Madame Malkin's for robes, the apothecary for potion ingredients. At Ollivander's, Eileen tries wand after wand before finding her match, a willow wand with dragon heartstring core that produces silver sparks when she waves it. The wand maker comments on her potential, seeing great things in her future. Snape pays and quietly warns the wand maker not to put pressure on his daughter, earning a knowing smile from the old man. The day they take Eileen to King's Cross to catch the Hogwarts Express is bittersweet. Platform 9 3/4 is crowded with families, children excited and nervous, parents offering last-minute advice. Lily hugs Eileen tightly, making her promise to write often, to be careful, to remember she's loved. Snape's goodbye is more restrained but equally emotional. He tells Eileen to work hard, to be true to herself, to not let others define her. He tells her he's proud of her, that she's going to do amazing things. Eileen boards the train trying to act grown-up and brave, but she presses her face to the window, waving until her family disappears from view. The Sorting Hat takes its time with Eileen. She sits on the stool in front of the entire school, the hat on her head debating where she belongs. She has her father's cleverness and thirst for knowledge, her mother's courage and sense of justice. She could excel in Slytherin or Gryffindor or even Ravenclaw. Finally, after what feels like forever, the hat announces Ravenclaw. The blue and bronze table erupts in applause, welcoming their new member. Eileen joins them, relieved and excited, ready to begin her Hogwarts journey. Snape, watching from the staff table, feels a complex mix of emotions. He's glad Eileen is in Ravenclaw, a house that will nurture her intelligence and curiosity. He's perhaps slightly disappointed she's not in Slytherin, though he'd never admit it. Mostly he's just proud. His daughter, starting her education at Hogwarts, building her own story in these halls. Later, when Eileen's first letter arrives, she writes about making friends, about her classes, about how charms is her favorite, but potions is interesting too, though Professor Snape is really strict. Lily laughs reading that part, teasing Snape about his daughter calling him strict. Having Eileen at Hogwarts while Snape teaches there creates an interesting dynamic. He's careful not to show favoritism, perhaps even being slightly harder on her than other students to avoid accusations of bias. Eileen handles it well, understanding why her father keeps professional distance at school. She excels in her classes, particularly in charms and transfiguration. In potions, she's good but not exceptional, which secretly relieves Snape a bit. She's her own person, not just a copy of him. Eileen makes friends easily. She's drawn to smart, ambitious students, forming a close group that includes a Muggle-born Gryffindor who reminds her of her mother's stories, a pure-blood Slytherin questioning his family's prejudices, and a half-blood Hufflepuff with a talent for herbology. Her friend group reflects the world her parents fought to create, diverse and accepting, united by mutual respect rather than divided by blood status. Alexander joins Hogwarts 2 years after Eileen. His sorting takes even longer. The hat debates between Gryffindor and Hufflepuff before finally choosing Gryffindor, seeing in Alexander the courage to stand up for others, the loyalty to those he loves. Alexander is thrilled to be in his mother's house, to walk the same halls she walked, to sleep in the same tower. He writes home that the Gryffindor common room is exactly how Lily described it, cozy and warm and full of comfortable chairs. Having both children at Hogwarts changes the family dynamic. Lily and Snape have more time together, rediscovering aspects of their relationship that got lost in the chaos of early parenthood. They have date nights, something that was impossible with young children. They take walks around the Hogwarts grounds, holding hands, talking about everything and nothing. They remember what it was like before they were parents, when they were just Lily and Severus, young people in love, but they also worry more. Both children are away from home, making their own choices, facing their own challenges. Eileen writes about a Slytherin student who made a comment about Muggleborns, how she hexed him and got detention. Snape is proud of her standing up for what's right, but worries about her making enemies. Alexander writes about trying out for the Quidditch team and not making it, how disappointed he was. Lily's heart breaks for him, remembering how much confidence it takes to try and fail publicly. They navigate these challenges from a distance, offering advice through letters, trusting that they've raised their children well, that Eileen and Alexander will make good choices. When the children come home for holidays, the family reunites with joy and relief. They share meals, tell stories, reconnect. Eileen talks about her classes and her research interests, already showing the academic focus that will define her career. Alexander talks about his friends and his adventures, his extracurricular activities, his social life that's rich and fulfilling. The years of having children at Hogwarts fly by. Eileen excels academically, receiving multiple outstanding marks on her OWLs. She's particularly brilliant in charms and transfiguration, though her potions grades are merely exceeds expectations, which she jokes about with her father. She joins the dueling club, becomes an accomplished duelist, wins the inter-house tournament in her 6th year. She dates occasionally, but never seriously, too focused on her studies and her future plans. Alexander is more social, less academically driven, but still competent in his classes. He finally makes the Quidditch team in his 4th year, becoming a chaser known for his strategic thinking and teamwork. He's popular and well-liked, friends with students from all houses. He dates more seriously than his sister, having a relationship with a Ravenclaw girl that lasts through most of his 6th year before they amicably part ways, realizing they want different things. Both children navigate the complicated reality of being Professor Snape's children. Some students try to befriend them for access to their father or for special treatment. Others avoid them, intimidated by their father's reputation. But Eileen and Alexander build genuine friendships, learning to identify people who value them for themselves rather than their connections. They also learn to handle the legacy of their parents' war service. Older generations remember Lily and Severus as war heroes, tell stories about the Order of the Phoenix, about the fight against Voldemort. It's a lot to live up to, a heavy expectation that both children sometimes struggle with. Snape and Lily are careful to remind their children that they don't have to be heroes, that living good lives, being kind people, making their own choices, these things matter more than grand gestures or legendary deeds. They tell Eileen and Alexander that they're proud of them not because of their grades or achievements, but because of who they are as people, because of their kindness and integrity. When Eileen graduates Hogwarts, she's at the top of her class. She receives multiple job offers, including one from the Ministry's Department of Mysteries and another from a prestigious potions research company. She ultimately chooses to pursue advanced study in experimental charms, wanting to push the boundaries of what's possible with magic. She's accepted into an elite program that only takes 2 students per year, studying under a master who was once her mother's contemporary. Alexander's path is different. He graduates with strong grades but not as exceptional as his sisters. He knows what he wants, though. He wants to be an Auror, to fight against dark wizards, to protect people. It terrifies Lily and Snape, bringing back memories of the war, of constant danger. But they support him, understanding that he needs to forge his own path, even if that path involves risk. Alexander enters Auror training, proving himself capable and dedicated. He's not the strongest in combat magic, but his strategic thinking and people skills make him valuable. As their children build their adult lives, Lily and Snape enter a new phase. They're in their mid-40s now, established in their careers, respected in their fields. Snape has been teaching at Hogwarts for over 20 years, has shaped an entire generation of students. He's no longer the youngest professor, but one of the most senior, someone newer teachers come to for advice. He's mellowed with age, though students still find him intimidating. His reputation is one of fairness and expertise. Someone who demands excellence, but also genuinely cares about his students' growth. Lily has risen to a senior position in the Ministry, leading the Department of Magical Law Enforcement. She's implemented sweeping reforms over her tenure, changing laws and policies that have made the wizarding world more equitable. She's fought against resistance from old pureblood families, from traditionalists who resist change, but she's persisted. The wizarding world is measurably better because of her work, something she's quietly proud of even as she acknowledges there's still more to do. Their relationship, tested by war and parenthood and the normal challenges of life, has deepened and matured. They know each other completely, the good and the bad, the strengths and the flaws. They've seen each other at their worst and loved each other anyway. They have rituals and traditions built over decades. Saturday mornings, Snape makes tea exactly how Lily likes it, and they sit reading the Daily Prophet together. Sunday evenings, they take walks around the Hogwarts grounds, no matter the weather, reconnecting after busy weeks. On their anniversary each year, they revisit the place where they first kissed, the library alcove at Hogwarts, remembering young love while appreciating mature partnership. They also navigate the challenges of aging. Snape's hair is heavily streaked with gray now, his face lined with age and old scars from the war. He moves a bit slower, his joints aching on cold mornings, old injuries making themselves known. Lily's hair is still bright red. Though she finds gray strands, she occasionally vanishes with a simple spell. She's developed the laugh lines around her eyes that Snape loves, evidence of a life filled with joy. They joke about getting older, about being the old married couple, but they're grateful for every year they get together. Eileen's career takes off spectacularly. She makes breakthroughs in charm theory that revolutionize certain applications. She's published in academic journals, presents at international conferences, becomes a name recognized in magical research circles. She's passionate and driven, sometimes working to the point of exhaustion, reminding Snape uncomfortably of himself at that age. She dates occasionally but remains single, claiming she's too busy for a serious relationship. Though Lily suspects she just hasn't met the right person yet, Alexander completes his Auror training with honors. His first assignments are relatively safe, handling minor dark magic incidents, investigating suspicious activity. But as he gains experience, the assignments become more dangerous. He's part of operations to arrest dark wizards, to break up illegal potions rings, to protect important witnesses. Each time Lily and Snape hear about one of his missions, they worry. They know the dangers firsthand, know that Aurors die in the line of duty. But Alexander is good at his job, careful and skilled, and he always comes home. The Snape family gathers for holidays and important occasions. Birthdays, Christmas, Easter, these become times when everyone comes together. Eileen takes time off from her research. Alexander gets leave from Auror duties, and they all reunite at the cottage in Godric's Hollow or at Hogwarts. They cook together, tell stories, laugh about shared memories. These gatherings are precious, everyone aware of how rare it is for busy adults to synchronize schedules, how important it is to maintain family bonds. It's during one of these gatherings that Eileen announces she's met someone, a fellow researcher, a man from France who shares her passion for experimental charms. She's clearly smitten, talking about him with an enthusiasm her family rarely sees from usually reserved Eileen. She brings him to meet the family a few months later. Jean-Luc is charming and intelligent, respectful to Lily and Snape, able to discuss magical theory with Eileen for hours. Snape is predictably protective, interrogating the young man about his intentions, his career, his character. Lily is more welcoming, seeing how happy Eileen is, recognizing young love when she sees it. Eileen and Jean-Luc marry in a beautiful ceremony held in the Hogwarts grounds. It's a small wedding, mostly family and close friends, exactly what Eileen wanted. She wears simple robes in blue and silver, her hair adorned with flowers. Jean-Luc stands waiting for her with tears in his eyes, clearly overcome. Snape walks his daughter down the aisle, his own eyes suspiciously wet, though he denies crying when Lily teases him about it later. The ceremony is conducted by Dumbledore, now ancient but still sharp, who speaks about love enduring through challenges, about building lives together. The reception is joyful, filled with laughter and dancing and celebration. Alexander meets his future wife a year later. She's a Muggle doctor, brilliant and compassionate, working in emergency medicine. They meet when Alexander is injured during an Auror operation and taken to a Muggle hospital for treatment to maintain cover. She treats his injuries, and they start talking, discovering an immediate connection. Dating across the magical and Muggle divide is challenging. Alexander has to be careful about statute of secrecy violations, about what he can tell her about his work. But he eventually reveals the truth about magic, about his world, and she accepts it with surprising ease, fascinated rather than frightened. When Alexander brings Emma home to meet his family, Lily is immediately supportive, having grown up Muggle herself, understanding Emma's perspective. Snape is more uncertain, not because Emma is Muggle, but because he worries about the challenges they'll face, the complications of a mixed marriage. But Emma wins him over with her intelligence and her obvious love for Alexander, her willingness to learn about the magical world while maintaining her own identity and career. They marry in a ceremony that blends magical and Muggle traditions, a symbol of two worlds coming together. Grandchildren arrive in due time. Eileen and Jean-Luc have twin daughters, Margot and Claire, born when Lily and Snape are in their early 60s. The twins are a handful from the start, showing magical ability early and using it to get into constant mischief. They have their mother's red hair and their father's dark eyes, a striking combination. They're inseparable, finishing each other's sentences, communicating in ways that seem almost telepathic. Eileen jokes that raising twins is revenge for how difficult she made her parents' lives as a child. Alexander and Emma have a son, Lucas, born a year after the twins. What makes Lucas special is that he's a squib, born to a magical father and Muggle mother, but without magic himself. In the past, squibs were often sources of family shame, hidden away, or pushed into the Muggle world without support. But Alexander and Emma raise Lucas with love and pride, never treating his lack of magic as a deficit. They teach him about both worlds, give him knowledge of magic even though he can't perform it, ensure he feels valued and accepted. Lily and Snape adore their grandchildren, filling the roles of doting grandparents with enthusiasm. Snape, who was such a strict father, is much more indulgent as a grandfather. The twins wrap him around their little fingers, convincing him to do magic tricks for them, to tell them stories, to play games. He teaches them simple potions, safe experiments that result in color changes and sparks. He's patient with their questions, their endless curiosity, in ways he never quite managed with students. Lily spoils all three grandchildren equally. She brings them presents whenever she visits, plays with them for hours, tells them stories about their parents as children. With Lucas, she has a special bond, perhaps because she understands what it's like to be caught between the magical and non-magical worlds. She tells him about Muggle things, about science and technology, ensuring he has interests and knowledge that are valuable regardless of magic. The Snape family gatherings are now multi-generational affairs. 3 generations coming together, children playing while adults talk. The cottage in Godric's Hollow filled with noise and life. Margot and Claire practice magic under watchful supervision, making toys float and lights dance. Lucas watches with fascination but no jealousy, secure in his parents' love and his own worth. Eileen and Alexander catch up on each other's lives. Their sibling relationship evolved into adult friendship. Jean-Luc and Emma bond over being the ones who married into this complicated, loving family. And at the center of it all are Lily and Snape, now in their 60s, watching the family they built with wonder. They think sometimes about the alternate path, about what would have happened if Snape had said that word by the lake, if Lily had never forgiven him. They think about Harry Potter, who doesn't exist in this timeline, about how different everything is from canon. They think about the war, about the people they lost, about how close they came to not having this, any of this. They've lived good lives. Snape has educated thousands of students, shaped magical education, made genuine contributions to potion theory. Lily has changed laws and policies, made the wizarding world more just, protected countless Muggleborns. They've raised 2 children who are good people, who contribute positively to the world. They have grandchildren who are loved and happy and full of potential. As they enter their later years, they begin thinking about retirement. Snape has been teaching for over 30 years. He's trained his replacement, a talented former student who respects his legacy. He's ready to step back, to spend his remaining years focusing on family and personal interests. He retires from Hogwarts in a ceremony attended by decades of former students, many of whom traveled great distances to honor him. The speeches talk about his impact, his dedication, his evolution from intimidating young professor to beloved institution. Snape is uncomfortable with the attention but deeply moved by the turnout. Lily retires from the ministry around the same time. Her farewell party is attended by everyone who's anyone in magical law enforcement. Ministers past and present speak about her contributions, about laws that bear her influence, about a wizarding world that's fundamentally changed because of her advocacy. She receives awards and honors that she graciously accepts while deflecting credit to her colleagues and supporters. But everyone knows the truth. Lily Evans Snape changed the magical world for the better, and her legacy will last generations. In retirement, they travel. They visit magical communities around the world, seeing different cultures and traditions. They go to Japan and learn about their unique approach to potion making. They visit Brazil and study their advanced herbology techniques. They travel to Egypt and explore ancient magical ruins. They also visit Muggle places, museums, and historical sites, enjoying the non-magical world's wonders. They hold hands walking through the Louvre, kiss under the northern lights, watch sunsets from Greek islands. They also write. Snape finally compiles his potion innovations and teaching methods into a comprehensive textbook that becomes required reading in Hogwarts and other magical schools. His book revolutionizes potion education, making advanced techniques accessible to average students through his clear explanations and logical progressions. Lily writes a memoir about Muggle-born experiences, about navigating between 2 worlds, about fighting for equality. Her book becomes a bestseller, required reading in Muggle studies classes, sparking important conversations about identity and belonging. Their home in Godric's Hollow becomes a gathering place for the family. Every Sunday, whoever can make it comes for dinner. Sometimes it's the whole family, sometimes just 1 or 2 people. Lily cooks, though Snape helps more in retirement, discovering a late-life interest in culinary experimentation. The grandchildren visit regularly, spending weekends with their grandparents. Margot and Claire, now attending Hogwarts themselves, come home during holidays. Lucas, studying engineering at a Muggle university, brings his projects to show his grandparents, explaining complex concepts with enthusiasm. Snape's health begins declining in his early 70s. The old war injuries carried for decades start causing more problems. Curses that damaged him years ago leave lingering effects that potions can only partially address. He develops a persistent cough that healing spells can't fully cure, a reminder of the dark magic he was exposed to during the war. Lily worries constantly, consulting with healers, researching treatments. Snape tells her not to fuss, that he's lived a long and full life, that some things can't be fixed. But they both know they're approaching the end of their time together, that the years remaining are precious and finite. They make the most of those years. They spend more time together, talking about everything and nothing. They reminisce about their past, about their childhood friendship, about falling in love, about the war, about raising their children. They talk about their regrets, few though they are. Snape wishes he'd been more patient as a young teacher, that he'd appreciated the quiet moments more. Lily wishes she'd worried less, enjoyed more, not let anxiety about the future steal joy from the present. They forgive each other and themselves for their imperfections, accepting that they did their best with what they knew at the time. They also talk about death, facing it with the pragmatism of people who've survived war. Neither is particularly afraid. They've lived well, loved deeply, made meaningful contributions. They've raised children and met grandchildren. If their time is ending, they can face it with acceptance. Their only real fear is leaving the other one alone, of one having to continue without their partner. They make each other promise to keep living, to not give up when one passes, to find joy in what remains. Snape's final years are marked by increasing frailty, but also deep contentment. He watches his grandchildren grow, sees Margot and Claire graduate Hogwarts and begin their own careers. Margot becomes a curse-breaker, working for Gringotts in dangerous and exciting work. Claire pursues a career in magical creatures research, specializing in endangered species conservation. Lucas completes his engineering degree and works on projects that blend Muggle technology with magical principles, creating innovations that benefit both worlds. He sees Alexander rise to become head of the Auror office, leading the department with wisdom and compassion. He sees Eileen publish groundbreaking research that wins international awards. He sees his children happy and successful, his grandchildren thriving, his family strong and connected. He sees the world he and Lily fought for, imperfect but improving, more just and equal than the one they grew up in. On a quiet autumn evening, Severus Snape dies peacefully in his sleep. He's 76 years old, surrounded by the evidence of a life well lived. Lily is beside him, holding his hand. In his last moments, he's not thinking about his difficult childhood or the war or the darkness he almost embraced. He's thinking about Lily, about the first time he saw her on the playground in Cokeworth, about telling her she was a witch. He's thinking about their first kiss in the Hogwarts library, about the day Eileen was born, about every moment in between. He's thinking that he's had a good life, better than he ever dared to hope for, and that he's grateful for every single day of it. Lily grieves deeply. They've been together for over 50 years, partners through everything life threw at them. The house feels empty without him, too quiet, too still, but she keeps her promise. She keeps living, keeps engaging with her family, keeps finding moments of joy. She spends time with her children and grandchildren, telling them stories about Severus, ensuring his memory stays alive. She tends the garden they planted together, nurturing the plants he loved. She reads his textbook and her memoir, physical evidence of lives that mattered. She lives for 3 more years after Severus passes. 3 years of missing him constantly, but also celebrating what they had. She attends Margot's wedding, gives a speech about love that brings everyone to tears. She holds Alexander's hand when he makes a difficult decision about his career, providing the wisdom only a mother can offer. She plays with a new great-grandchild, Eileen's first grandchild, marveling at how the family keeps growing and changing. When Lily dies, it's gentle and expected. She's been declining for months, her heart literally broken by Severus's absence in ways that medicine can't fix. She gathers her family around her in her final days, tells them how proud she is of them, how much she loves them, how grateful she is for the life she's lived. She tells them about choosing to see the good in people, about fighting for what's right even when it's hard, about the power of love to change everything. Her last thoughts are of Severus, of the boy who told her she was special, of the man he became, of the life they built together. She closes her eyes thinking about seeing him again, about whatever comes next, about finally being reunited with her greatest love. The double funeral is attended by thousands. Former students, ministry officials, members of the Order of the Phoenix who survived the war, representatives from magical communities around the world. The Minister of Magic speaks, but so do ordinary people whose lives were changed by Lily and Severus Snape. A Muggle-born witch talks about how Lily's advocacy gave her opportunities she never thought possible. A former Slytherin student talks about how Professor Snape taught him that his house didn't define his choices. An Auror talks about working with Alexander and how proud his parents would be. They're buried side by side in Godric's Hollow, near their cottage, in a spot they'd chosen together years before. Their headstones are simple, marking their names and dates, but also the inscription they'd written together. Lily Evans Snape and Severus Tobias Snape, beloved parents, grandparents, and friends. They chose differently, and that made all the difference. Their legacy lives on in countless ways. In the laws Lily passed that continue protecting Muggleborns. In the students Severus taught, who became talented potioneers, teachers, healers. In their children and grandchildren who carry forward their values of justice and compassion. In a wizarding world that's measurably better because two people chose love over hatred, connection over isolation, hope over despair. The family they built continues to thrive. Eileen and Alexander stay close, supporting each other through life's challenges. The grandchildren grow up knowing their family history, understanding the sacrifices made, the battles fought, the love that conquered darkness. They visit their grandparents' graves regularly, leaving flowers, telling them about their lives, maintaining that connection across death. Years later, when Margot's daughter asks about her great-grandparents, about the people she never met but has heard so much about, Margot tells her about Severus Snape and Lily Evans, about how they met as children, became friends, fell in love, survived a war, built a family, changed the world. She tells her about the choice Severus made by a lake when he was 15 years old, to swallow his anger and pride and not say a word that would destroy everything. She tells her about how that one moment of restraint, that one different choice, rippled outward and changed everything. She tells her that we're all defined by our choices, that we're not trapped by our circumstances or our past, that we can always choose differently. She tells her that love is powerful, that it can transform people and worlds, that it's worth fighting for even when everything seems hopeless. She tells her that Severus Snape and Lily Evans Snape were heroes not because they defeated a Dark Lord, though they helped do that, but because they chose each other, chose love, chose hope, chose to build something good from the ashes of war, and in that telling, in that remembering, they live on, not as tragic figures defined by loss and sacrifice, but as people who loved deeply, lived well, made the most of the time they were given. They got their happy ending, their chance at a life together, their family and their legacy. They got everything they fought for and more. In another universe, Severus Snape spent his whole life mourning Lily Potter, protecting Harry in her memory, dying with the word always on his lips. That story is tragic and beautiful and meaningful in its own way, but in this universe, in this timeline built on one different choice, Severus Snape spent his life loving Lily Evans, building a family with her, growing old by her side. And when he died, it wasn't with always, but with gratitude, with joy, with peace. Both stories teach us something about love, about sacrifice, about what it means to be human. Both have value in beauty and pain. But this one, this alternate timeline where they ended up together, reminds us that sometimes people get second chances, that happy endings are possible, that choosing differently can change everything. It reminds us that love doesn't have to be tragic to be profound, that sometimes the greatest act of love is simply staying, building a life together, choosing each other every day for decades. This is what would happen if Severus Snape and Lily Evans ended up together. A different story, a different world, a different outcome. Not necessarily better or worse than canon, just different. Different choices leading to different paths, different loves creating different legacies. And perhaps that's the most important lesson of all, that our choices matter, that different decisions lead to different destinies, that the paths not taken are worth exploring even if only in our imaginations. That in the infinite possibilities of fiction and thought, every version of events has something to teach us about love, about life, about the beautiful and terrible complexity of being human.